If you watch the recent show-off competition for 2022, I'm sure you'll agree with me when I say wow. There were some unbelievable entries which really raised the bar for web creation. Of those entries was Den. His website creation for Impro VR not only won the landing page category, but also the overall winner for the whole 2022 show-off competition. I was lucky enough to recently catch up with Den, and we discussed all things web creation, and Den even gave us a walkthrough of his winning website. Well, welcome, Den. First of all, I would just like to say thank you for taking the time to talk to me today. And for anybody that hasn't seen Den's website that won the competition, please check out the link in this video's description. Because honestly, it's mind-blowing. It's absolutely amazing. It was shared, many times around the office, and we were all super excited to see it, along with a lot of the other websites as well. But this one particularly stood out for a lot of us. So congratulations, Den.
Thank you very much for your inviting, and I really appreciate this. My name is Den. Currently, I'm working from Indonesia and Bali, and I'm a web developer, a 3D artist, and surely a web designer. And my real passion from this is design. I really love designing, and I started designing since 1998. So I designed a lot of different stuff, but I focused right now on creating designs for web sites, for web pages. That's my real passion. And thank you again for inviting me.
I've been really excited about this interview because I really want to show people your website, and I think it's inspirational for anybody, whether they're new to Elementor or a seasoned expert. I think a lot of people could take a lot of value from the type of work you do. Now, I really stalked your portfolio, so I looked through a lot of your other websites as well, and none of them disappoint at all. You clearly are a very talented guy. Tell me, what came first? Where did your journey begin? Was it with design, and then did that evolve into these other skill sets?
When I was a child, my father, back in 1998, offered me to create my first web page. It was a really awesome experience for me because at this moment I was only 11 years old, and it was very complicated thing for me just to understand how it works, because it was Windows 98, and that was a really complicated thing, because at this moment the tool set was very narrow, and if you would like to create a web page, the best way was to do it by Notepad, for example, and writing a code from scratch. But surprisingly for me, with this website, I won my very first award in designers field amongst juniors, and I was so excited that my very first web page in my life and won an award. Wow!
Wow!
Really
So you have a history of winning competitions with web design.
Web design and design itself, that's my real passion.
Okay, that's great to find out a little bit about you and your history and how you came to be where you are right now. So talking about where you are right now, let's talk about Elementor, because obviously the basis of your website was created with Elementor. I know there's a lot of custom things that you added to it as well, which we'll hopefully get into at some point today. But how long have you been using Elementor?
I started using Elementor back in 2019. My client, a landlord with real estate property, came to me with a request to build a booking platform for his properties. It was not a simple task for me, and then I realized that using WordPress is a good idea. It could provide the best solution of what I can find for this task. And I wasn't sure about how to bring the client's vision to life. And that's when I discovered Elementor. And at first, I was, very skeptical. So many page builders this time promised nothing but headaches. Yeah, but as I began to explore Elementor's features, I was pleasantly surprised, and it was very easy to use, and it was very powerful. And I could create custom layouts and designs with minimal effort, and I felt like a kid in a candy store. And with user Elementor by my side, I set to work on this rental properties platform. And just in a couple of weeks of work, I had a finished project, and that actually exceeded my clients' expectations. And this platform was beautiful, functional, and most importantly, it worked like a real child. And from this day, I knew that Elementor was my go-to tool. And for every project, I use Elementor. And each time I was really impressed by how it works and which capabilities it provides. And the best part of it that Elementor is constantly changing and getting better. Just like a good story.
Wow, that's a really great insight into how you discovered the tool, and it's also great to hear you talk about how you enjoy the improvements that we're always making to the tool. And and that's really important in our industry, is to always evolve, improve, and keep up. Let's now talk about your winning website. So, ImproVR is the company name, I believe. Tell us just a little bit about the client. What was the initial brief? Were you given full creative control over this, or were there real specific requirements?
The client is a startup company. They have headquarters in the United States, in Germany. And in my opinion, they are kind of pioneers in VR solutions for professional sportsmen. And they contacted me. The only requirement was to create a website that could be as impressive as their product. Regarding the freedom, it was a very nice experience working with these guys because, actually, they gave me a full freedom in terms of design solutions, which I use, and I hope they didn't apologize. And most of my clients who come to me rely on my designer's vision, and I believe that's the only way for getting good results. Because when you come to a dentist, that's not a good idea to teach him how to treat you, for example. Yeah, and as a client, you can spend a lot of time choosing a good designer. But since you already have chosen one, that's not a good idea to interrupt his work. That's very important. But in this case, I got full control and full freedom to implement the design solutions. So what's in my mind? Yeah, so it was really nice to work with these guys.
Let's take a look, shall we? Would you mind sharing your screen, and we'll take a look at the website?
Okay, let's take a closer look at how this website was created. I know it may take a while to explain every section, so please let me highlight the most important ones. The first thing I would like to explain is the welcome screen. As I mentioned before, in my opinion, that is one of the most important parts of the entire website. It should captivate users' attention as soon as they arrive on the page and involve them into scrolling further. For this screen, my client recorded a 4K video. Actually, it was very nice, but it had only 24 frames per second, and obviously it wasn't possible to use it for the scroll animation. In the default variant, the animation was too fast, and that was barely possible even just to understand what's going on the screen. So I decided to use some great AI tools to make a slow motion video with the help of neural networks. As a result, I got 120 frames per second, and it was enough to make the animation run really smoothly. It was ready to be used on the website, but I wouldn't say that I liked the overall style of the video. It was too boring and vanilla for me, and I decided that I need something more stylish and eye-catchy. So I split up the video into a frame sequence and then used Photoshop to edit the pictures to achieve the result that I wanted. Here you can see the difference. Then I used very handy Photoshop Actions tool. Basically, I recorded a sequence of steps, then I turned it into a script, and all of the further editing of the entire sequence was done fully automatically by Photoshop. And the result, I got a sequence of 130 frames, and I really enjoyed it. Here you can see how smoothly it goes. The sequence was done, but 130 images obviously could have a serious impact on the website's loading speed. So the next step was to optimize the images by converting them into WebP. As you can see, the size of every image was reduced from 150 kilobytes to only 39, almost in 4 times. But optimizing images usually causes lowering quality, so I decided to leave the original quality for the first and last 5 frames to provide a better look for the animation. Also, to improve performance on mobile devices, I decided to create a standalone sequence to reduce the animation size. Because on mobile, we obviously don't need landscape-oriented images, and everything located outside of the portrait viewport should be cropped to reduce the size. The next step was implementing the animation to the website and making it interactive. Actually, you can find some ready solutions. As far as I know, some of Elementor add-ons let you create such kind of animations without any custom coding. But I prefer to do this by myself, and I wrote a JavaScript code using the green sock animation library and then put it into the Elementor's custom code. So that's how the welcome screen was created. Let's have a look at the other sections. Here I used CSS and JavaScript to create the 3D text effects and the Elementor's animation responsive to mouse movement to achieve the same effect as you can experience using VR headsets. As you can see that this section is scroll responsive as well. Here I used some JavaScript to create a kind of animation to make a highlight on the advantages of the product. To make this section, I created inner sections in Elementor and with JavaScript turned it into a horizontal scrollable section. I know it looks like a mess from the editor's panel, but again, you can find some no-code solutions to do this. You can find some add-ons and plugins to make the horizontal scrolling. Still, for me, it was better to write my own code to make sure that it will deliver the user experience that I designed, and especially on mobile devices, because you can see a slightly different design there. I think this section is more interesting for getting a deeper inside view. Here you can see an interactive scroll animation with the effect of putting a VR headset right on the visitor's head. To do this, I used one of my favorite free tools, Blender 3D. I'm sure that you heard about it before. So I created a model of the VR headset, created some textures for it, and then I created the animation. Then I turned it into an image sequence, and at the last image of the sequence, I used a frame with a transparent mask. After that, I made this frame sticky at the top level, and then added a scrollable picture of a stadium right below it to achieve the effect of viewing the stadium through the VR headset. Then I used the same technique that I described before for the welcome screen to implement the animation into the page. Okay, let's move forward. Here I used the carousel to display the testimonials for the product. And here I used the flip boxes with an interesting 3D effect and the default Elementor's entrance animation. And yeah, for the contacts, I used Elementor's form widget to keep in touch with the visitors. So that's it. It might look a bit complicated at first glance, but with the Elementor there are absolutely no limits for design ideas, and with its help you can create literally everything that you can only imagine.
That was a really great overview of the landing page, and it was great to watch you demonstrate each section and just explain a little bit more there. Blender is not something I personally have used, but I'm definitely intrigued by it. So you've inspired me to try and spend some time playing around with that, because you can definitely create some pretty cool stuff, and it's easy to embed into an Elementor website. I just want to talk a little bit about what are the main benefits to using Elementor in your client sites that you find?
I think that my personal point of view is very arguable for somebody, but as I mentioned before, I really don't use any tools for sketching. I create everything on the go. And for me, that's very important. When you create a page and you can view this page right from your mobile, for example, you can feel it, you can touch it. And if you decide something you need to change, you can do this instantly. That's the most important thing for me. But on the other hand, I can say that when I started, I used tons of different plugins and add-ons and all of this stuff. For just for a simple page, I could be using, for example, 20 or even 30 different add-ons, plugins, all of this. But for now, that's not necessarily at all, because if you have something in mind, you can use just Elementor Pro and its capabilities. I believe that it will be enough to create almost everything what's in your mind and what's on your mind. And for me, that's not a simple task to to make a highlights on some features, but I can say that I use almost every Elementor's feature, and especially considering that the overall speed of Elementor's of the websites made with Elementor, for now that's pretty quick, that works pretty smooth, and for me that's one of the most significant improvements in these couple of years.
Thank you for that overview of your experience with Elementor and Elementor Pro. Like you, I think I use every feature going, and certainly when I started, I think I was in the same category, that I would use a lot of add-ons and I would use a lot of plugins to achieve relatively straightforward things that needed to happen. But as you become more familiar with the tool, as you become a better web creator, you definitely lose plugins week in, week out. I think this is the experience a lot of us guys go through. And the least amount of plugins on your website, the better, because that means it's going to load quicker. So utilizing what Elementor and Elementor Pro can provide for you, which is a lot of stuff. It really is a lot of stuff. Just using those tools together, you can create some really fantastic designs and sites. And as you have done with Impro VR, adding custom code as well. If you are fortunate enough to be able to write your own CSS and JavaScript, that can really save on performance as well. You know, if you could just write a quick snippet of code to achieve something that you need to do rather than install an entirely separate plugin, that's really going to help with that performance. So thank you for the overview there. I'll finish up with just one more question. This can be treated as a personal question, a professional question, however you want to take it. But what are your future goals?
That's a very interesting question, because you know, for me personally, that gave a perfect opportunity to have a job of my dream, and nowadays that's very important as well. With Elementor, I can work from any point, from any country, from any city which has internet. You know, you can freely choose any place to live in, and for me that's a great opportunity, and I can thank Elementor for this as well. And in my nearest future, I would like to contribute to Elementor's community. Currently, right now, I'm working on 2 add-ons for Elementor, and I hope they will be live very soon. But I can say that's not a simple task to come up with something what is still not implemented in Elementor.
That's good to hear.
Not so simple, and that's good to see that Elementor right now has everything what you need to create modern, smooth websites.
Wow, that's great. Thank you. It's been great chatting to you again. It's been great seeing you do a live demonstration of your website and really talking through the points there. As I mentioned before, we will link to Den's website and also portfolio in the description below. So please check out his work. And yeah, we'll wrap it up there, Den. Thank you so much for this. You mentioned about being part more of the community. Please jump in and join the discussion. We'll be happy to have you there. And I really look forward to seeing these add-ons that you're developing.
Thank you very much for invitation. That's a great experience for me, and that's very important. And thank you for your time. And yeah, see you soon.
See you soon. Thank you, Den. Take care. Bye now.